let's talk about the equipment room in your new dog van. So we've placed all of the equipment here in the back of the truck to make it easy to service and get to as kind of a maintenance area for the truck. The first thing I'll point out is that on many of these Ford vans, there's a release here and here on the vans where you can push it to unlock and fold the door out of the way. Sometimes this makes it easier if you're in tight spaces or near your garage at home and you need to move around the truck. So if we look at the back area, yours may be arranged slightly differently, but all the components tend to be the same. Starting up at the very top is the heating and air conditioning unit. For most purposes, you shouldn't need to do anything to this unit. It should be fairly service-free. You should check where the air gets brought into the fans for cleanliness in case dog hair or any other dust accumulates in these areas. All the air that comes through the air conditioning comes in down low and then flows through this cabinet up to the top. This helps keep this cabinet warm in winter and cool in summer. These two hoses here and here drain all of the collected water from the air conditioning system down and out of the truck below me. Normally all the condensated water that comes out of the air, all the moisture that the air conditioning collects, will travel down through these tubes. These tubes should always go gradually down and out of the truck. Some of the early trucks had the two tubes come together, and you may need to check to make sure they're not collecting water here in the tray. Over here is an outlet box for AC power that supplies power to things like your blow dryer here. Your blow dryer unit on all trucks is mounted here. It has a removable filter screen with a foam filter that just needs to be checked and cleaned occasionally. And there is a switch on the backside of the blower that has a low and a high position. We always leave it in the high position so that you have the maximum force from the blow dryer at all times. If for some reason it gets bumped to off or to low, you'll want to check it, but in most cases you'll never come up here to adjust the unit unless it needs service. Some trucks have the clipper vac mounted here next to it with the hose running through the wall. Later trucks have the clipper vac mounted inside. Otherwise, there's a small shelf here that you can use to store smaller items with a ledge. On this side of the truck, you have your water panel. The water panel includes the water pump and the heat exchanger that heats the water for doing dog washing. There are also a number of valves and T's here to keep the hot water system working. I'm not going to go into detail here, but there is a handy diagram on the wall that shows how the hot and cold water system works in case it needs to be serviced. There is a spare pump provided that's already pre-wired to be plugged in should the main pump fail. And this is just done as a warranty extra. This is here as a spare in case this pump fails in the first couple of years of service. There is a screw-on filter here. This has a fine mesh screen, so if there's anything that comes up in the service water to the pump, the fresh water, it'll be collected by this screen and not go through the pump and in to contaminate the system. This can be checked visually and cleaned out regularly. The main water supply is here. This is where your fresh water goes in. There's a fill hose here, so you hook it up to a garden hose and you can fill your 65 gallons here. You can fill essentially to the top. There's a vent here that will push air out of the tank or overflow water, and again drain down and out the bottom of the truck. If you choose to use the vent to tell you when the water is full, just make sure the lid is screwed on tight. Otherwise, water will bubble out the lid and run all over your compartment. Your water supply comes here from down here at the bottom of the tank. So you'll see there's a valve and a T fitting Move this out of the way. If for any reason you have a leak or you need to do servicing, you can just shut this valve off and it'll keep water out of the system. Normally this valve needs to stay open to supply water to the pump. So water comes from here and up to the pump. There's also a bypass loop here that we'll talk about when we talk about shore power and plugging the vehicle in. Next to the freshwater tank, there is a gray water tank. This is the one connected directly to your sink. It has a vent, so if it overflows, the gray water will vent out below the truck. And essentially, for draining the vehicle, we have this hose here, which just stores here. It pulls out and goes to the ground, and you can just pull this valve to drain water out the bottom of the truck. Store that back there. Other things to note here. Here's your storage batteries for your electrical system. They live in here. Unlike some of the earlier units, these are maintenance free. If you do need to get into them, this cover comes off with the clip and the batteries are available there. Normally they're sealed and need no maintenance. Above them, here's your power inverter. So this charges your batteries when they're plugged in overnight, and this supplies the AC power to run your blowers, your dryers, your vacuum, and other equipment like the table. Again, regularly you'd expect no maintenance here. And the electrical system is located on the walls behind it. We'll talk about that in just a minute. Down here is your auxiliary heater, which we discussed to provide hot air overnight in the winter, and a small duct to blow that hot air back here as well as into the main cabin. And your shop vac is located here. To service the shop vac, remove the outlet hose, lift it off the wall, undo the cord, and now it's on the ground. You can unclamp it, service it, check the filter, and put it back for another use. The shop vac has 3 positions on top. It has an off position in the middle, an on position, and then it has this other position that looks like a Wi-Fi symbol. This makes the remote control work in the front of the work area. If the remote control button is not pushed, the remote control won't work. So if you ever have problems, check that first. Now it's ready to hook on the wall and go back into service.